So the new hotness, one of the most popular heroes these days, is Zaladar. And so here I have for you a list that you can use to play around with Zaladar. I think that Zaladar is definitely a top tier hero. Every time I played with this guy, I felt like I was doing a lot of unfair things. That said, the deck is kind of combo-y. So one of the ways that Zaladar loses is just to itself. And what I mean by that is, you need the Aural Battery to make your other stuff live. Like, you need it for the Zaladar ability. You need it for all your allies that do ability damage. And so you've got these combos there. You've got the combos that you need the Antimatter for the, discard outlets. You need the Falseblood Cultist and the um, Redux Channel to line up. So sometimes you hold a Redux Channel in your hand because you need to draw it into the Brimstone Devourer. So stuff like that. Just basically in general, there's like combos that you need to happen with Zaladar. And so for that reason, we run just 40 cards. And on 40 cards, in my opinion, you draw into these combos a lot. And that's actually why I only run like 3 Aural Battery. It's the best card in the deck, and I only run 3 because it's dead when you have multiple copies. And so, yeah, this is just a very consistent deck that is very aggressive. You're just trying to win very fast. And so, because of that, a 40 card deck is fine. And so, yeah, let's just jump right into some games. And then I might talk about some of my choices there. But yeah, had a pretty good win streak with this. I would say, just for testing and fooling around on QM, quick match, this was very good. Okay, so I lost to Serena there. Sometimes you lose to random stuff just because you don't get your combos that you need. Normally, Zaladar should beat Serena because Zaladar is so fast, but yeah, you do lose sometimes randomly. But let's see. What would a good game be? So one of the things about running Zaladar in this meta is you have to be prepared for the anti-meta. And so this Ethan was running, I think it's called Fortified Wisp, and he got it to like 9 attack, and I couldn't find my mind control. So yeah, you do run into those games where people are running kind of like the counter to your deck. The reason it counters your deck is because homunculus allies, a lot of them are immune to electric damage or they have damage resistance. Okay, let's just watch. Those were kind of when I was kind of experimenting anyway, if I recall correctly. So yeah, let's just watch. Okay, this one is against a Baduru. So okay, this guy is an 80 card Baduru, but do okay, yeah, we'll just watch this anyway. So um yeah, I think here I just sack the Shadow Font. I have the Bad Santa, so Bad Santa turn 2 is always a really good play just for that card advantage. I'm trying to hold on to the Bludgeons because I think Bludgeon is really good in this matchup. Okay, I sacked one of them, but that's only because it's a 6 cost card. I want to keep at least one because against Baduru, it's going to be a key card. So just kind of playing around whatever that could be. If that was, say, a camouflaged foe or something, we could have killed it with the ability there. Now Gremler's Double is coming in to kill both of our stuff. Now, Lightning Elemental, that's a good example of where Lightning Elemental can actually be quite good. It basically deals damage equal to your Shadow Energy, so that's nice. Okay, so we have a Survivalist, Baduru, so this is actually... I'm trying to remember what this match was like, but I think it was a pretty annoying match, if I recall correctly. Okay, yeah. So every time Baduru has an item that's destroyed, they draw a card with Survivalist, and that's what lets him basically play such a high card count. Okay, so yeah, we have the mind control for Gorlak, which is really nice because otherwise that would be a problem for us. Yeah, this is just gonna be kind of showing how this match can go. We're just going to try and burn our opponent to death, basically. We don't have our draw engine here, Antimatter, or any of our draw cards like Brimstone Devourer, so that is slowing us down a little bit here. But yeah. Yeah, I just hold on to this hand, actually, because I feel like, well, I don't want my opponent to know that I, like, what I have in my hand. And if you play everything in your hand, then your opponent kind of knows, like, exactly that you have nothing. So that is kind of the issue sometimes with playing everything in your hand. Okay, but anyway, going ahead and, yeah, discarding the Harpy there because that's no good. And because our opponent has Soul Seeker, I don't really want to go ahead and play, you know, our Brimstone Devourer and just let our opponent, like, draw. I sack there just in case I draw into Mind Control, which I do. So the Mind Control there is awesome against any kind of fatty. That's just going to help us deal more damage. So, yeah, that's really nice for us. I held off on Zaladar because I was waiting for Aural Battery. So that I could play Aural Battery and maybe do more burn here. So, yeah. And here we're just sacrificing our allies because of Soul Seeker here. Maybe I could have done it a little differently, but yeah. If I remember correctly, our opponent is going to play what's it called? There's this armor. Spell Eater Bands, yeah. So this is like kind of the complete counter to our deck. Now Zaladar is not going to deal any damage because it prevents all ability damage to the hero. So really, yeah, that's kind of tough. We're going to bludgeon it and try to get it down as much as possible, but it's even going to prevent the bludgeon damage. So, yeah, Spell Eater's Bands is really, really good against Zaladar. If you're looking for, like, a counter to, like, this very meta deck, you're going to see Zaladar a lot on the ranked ladder. I think Spell Eater Bands just kills this deck. Because we managed to get him so low, like, early on, I think we're able to eventually win this game, but, yeah, Spell Eater Bands is really good. Yeah, and I started playing allies just because I realized, like, to get down the durability on Spell Eater Bands, unless I have another, you know, unless I draw into another Bludgeon, which I think there is one more in the deck, but I didn't want to rely on that. I wanted to kind of, like, just play allies to hopefully be able to take off all the durability on top of this Spell Eater Bands, but yeah. I think it's just generally tough when you have no way to kind of remove durability off of Spell Eater Bands outside of Bludgeon. So yeah, this is just going to be a really slow match, but I do eventually win it. I think, I don't know if I really want to keep playing this video. Well, okay, I guess some takeaways here. Infinity Core, I only run one of, but it is really like an MVP of this deck. Infinity Core just lets you play these long games. So I mentioned earlier in kind of like the deck preview that I only run 40 cards. And so only running 40 cards is fine until you, well, start to deck out. And so we are here in like kind of like the phase of the game where we are basically decking out, and for that reason, that's why I like Infinity Core. You can play the long game for at least a little while until your opponent manages to destroy an Infinity Core by shuffling your allies back into your deck, and that can sometimes give you the small oomph you need to kind of finish off or win a game. So that's why I really like Infinity Core here. We're gonna go ahead and do this. I think at this point I wasn't sure if we had a Barbarian Bludgeon in the deck still. If I had known, I would have probably played this differently and drawn into it. So I guess that was kind of a misplay. I probably could have checked the discard and known for sure, because that just let him heal up so much that that was good for him. Now we finally have our Bludgeon, so we can finally start, dealing damage again, and we just have to hope he doesn't have another Spell Eater bans, because that would be, really bad for us. But, yeah, once we get rid of the Spell Eater bans, we can now start bringing him back down from his, he healed so much with the Soul Seeker, but I think we can burn him down now that we have everything. So he's going to Badru again, and this time it's going to be a Bludgeon. So his Bludgeon is going to get rid of our Infinity Core. Infinity Core put in a ton of work, so I'm really happy with Infinity Core. It's just that, yeah, it is a thing where sometimes, you can run into an issue there with it being destroyed. And so it's not a permanent solution for playing the long game. It's more like a temporary stall kind of thing. So our opponent here plays a 3-cost trap that I'm pretty sure is gonna be the Ricochet trap. So here, basically, what I do is I purposely not attack with Brimstone Devourer. Now, the reason I do that is because if this is a Ricochet trap, if I attack into his hero, he's not only going to draw with the Hunter's Gambit, but he's also going to draw with Survivalist and potentially draw into a good card, maybe like a weapon or something. So this is a situation where if you're playing against a trap deck, you can kind of play around it by not attacking. So I purposely don't attack with the Brimstone Devourer, and that lets me on this turn use the Frostflame Harpy and trigger it with the Harpy, and then go for game with the Brimstone Devourer. So I was really happy with how I played the end of that game there. I think if I hadn't done that and just rushed in with Brimstone Devourer, he probably draws into a weapon to then kill the Harpy, and then I can't kill him. So yeah, that was a very close game. Thanks in part due to those Spell Eater bans, and you're going to see that on the rank ladder, and maybe you should consider running it too, because Zaladar is all over ranked right now. Okay, well, we already watched a Baduru matchup. I think that matchup is kind of... Okay, I do want to watch this. This is like a mirror match. And I think this kind of shows where in the mirror match, the Bludgeon is so important and is so strong. Of course, I sack one of them, but that's only because it costs 6. It's really, really good in this matchup, and you'll see that. So here, yeah, we don't draw into our 2-cost stuff, which is sad. I usually sack Mind Control early on just because, excuse me. I usually sack Mind Control early on, especially against Zaladar. In the mirror match, I would say Mind Control is not good at all. Zaladar generally doesn't run fatties, and because of that, they usually are gonna run, for example, Death Mage Thaddeus. Mind controlling this is just horrible. So I think Mind Control is a lot less good in this matchup because it's Zaladar, of course. So yeah, I think our opponent is just trying to rush us down on ability damage. The fact that he played his ability there tells me that he probably has Shadow Font in his hand. I'm just hoping at this point that I'm not gonna get killed right out of the gate and have some time, because if I have some time, I can play the Bludgeon, which is going to be really, really nice. Okay, so he just goes ahead and plays his Falseblood Cultist, which is fine for us. Yeah. Okay, here, okay, we actually don't play the Bludgeon. We just go for our Falseblood Cultist to kill his Falseblood Cultist, which I think is the right move there. I don't want him to have all those allies out. Here he bludgeons away my Antimatter, which I'm honestly okay with. Like, I think here, okay, so I should talk about this decision. I made the decision there to not kill the Antimatter because I wanted to kill the Aural Battery durability. That did 2 things. First of all, it let me burn 2 damage on the opponent because Aural Battery lost durability. But the other thing that does is I honestly think Antimatter is, it's kind of like your panic button when like you drew into a hand where you don't want to play anything, then that's when you use Antimatter. But like a lot of the times I think it's a little bit overrated. You're paying 3 to draw 2 cards and discard 1, which is really good, but I mean, you're losing a lot of tempo that way. So, especially in this kind of matchup where it's Zaladar versus Zaladar, the first person to deal the most burn damage wins. I think that a slow card like Antimatter is less important than getting rid of the Aural Battery. If he has Aural Battery out, that's just going to give him so much advantage to just deal ability damage to me, and I don't want that. And so that's why I burn off the Aural Battery durability, because in this matchup, I think Aural Battery is much better than Antimatter. Anyway, this is where Bludgeon becomes absolutely crazy in the mirror match. So if you notice there, Frostflame Harpy dealt 2 to our opponent. Then it attacked into our opponent, and that removed durability from Aural Battery and removed a durability from Bludgeon because it had to counterattack. So that was in a total 4 damage that our opponent took from the Frostflame Harpy attacking, and on top of 2 damage from the Frostflame Harpy using its ability. So the combo is Aural Battery plus Bludgeon. It is so strong against any weapon and armor heroes, and that just is going to eviscerate our opponent's health here. So we're going to do that again. 3 damage, then 2 damage, and bam, that is just a ton of damage. And Zaladar went from like 20 health down to 9 health there. And so, yeah, that's why I'm super high on Bludgeon. I think Bludgeon, like people say, oh yeah, Bludgeon is, so. I actually think Bludgeon is amazing for Zaladar, and it's just an amazing card overall. And you'll see here, like, just the amount of burn we do from Bludgeon is enough to just finish off our opponent there. That burn effect with Zaladar is so strong and gives Zaladar the advantage in a weapon hero matchup. Whereas Zaladar used to kind of struggle against weapon heroes, I would say Zaladar now has a pretty good matchup against weapon heroes. Stuff like Baduru, stuff like even Gwen, which used to be a terrible matchup for Zaladar, is suddenly fine for Zaladar because we can bludgeon them and burn their health away before they can do anything about it. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why Zaladar is so strong right now. I think Zaladar lost a lot of its bad matchups. The addition of Bludgeon just gives Zaladar kind of like this mage feel. You kind of feel like you're playing a mage, but mages are usually really bad against weapon heroes, and Zaladar just isn't right now. Zaladar is totally fine against, very comfortable playing into like a Gwen or something. Okay, Gwen, I guess it's a toss up because Gwen can also use Weevil to kind of get rid of Aural Battery, which is really annoying. But yeah, most weapon heroes though, I would say Zaladar is a lot more comfortable playing against them right now. Let's see, we might want to watch one more, but I'm not sure which one. There's a lot of other builds, and this build might not be even like the best build is the thing, so there's also that to keep in mind. Okay, I think this will be an interesting match, not necessarily something you see a lot, but against Turadun. So Turadun is a hero that destroys an item or support ability. So against this type of deck, you do play differently than you would play against like I don't know, any other hero, because Turadun likes to destroy stuff. And so for that reason, you normally just sacrifice all of your items. I guess I'm keeping Aural Battery here, but yeah, I think Aural Battery is kind of maybe an exception just because it is something that you can use to kind of like deal more ability damage, and it's kind of low cost. So yeah, I play it anyway, but yeah, generally you don't want to be playing items. So stuff like what is it? Antimatter, for example. I would never play or almost never play against a Turadun, even though it's only a 1 cost item. Even then, I probably would not play it. But yeah, you'll see here that Aural Battery just gets blown up with his ability. So you do want to, like, if I had multiple Aural Batteries or if I had like other items, I would generally be sacrificing them in this matchup. And I do kind of want to show, I guess, that Zaladar is comfortable playing into stuff like this. So against a Pterodon, you know, we have to play our allies. We need our allies to deal the damage, and um, it's fine because Zaladar has those really strong allies. You have those Frostflame Harpies, you have the cultists, and you have like the low cost allies that are actually really strong. So yeah, I guess this is just kind of like an interesting example of Zaladar. Not to mention the hero ability being really good here, not needing the weapons. So you definitely don't need the weapons and the items to do well with Zaladar. Okay, anyway, I think that's probably enough games to watch. This is definitely, yeah, a top tier deck that I think you'll see a lot in tournaments. And now I guess I'll just talk about something I do see a lot. So I see a lot of people play 4 Shadow Font. I never ever liked that. I'm perfectly happy to run 3, but a lot of people run 4 just because it is direct face damage that you can deal, and direct face damage is, of course, really, really good. But the reason I don't like Shadow Font that much is I think it's really lame, like, early on in the game. It's almost something I always sack if I draw it in my opening hand, but I feel like it's more of like a late game push card. And if you're going to run, like, a late game, card like that, I don't know. I just don't think it's worth running 4 because of the chances that you'll brick with them. And there's also some other cards I think are better as finishers. So there's Energy Extraction. That's a card I see a lot in Zaladar as like something that can finish off the opponent because you run like Falseblood Cultist, but it's 4 cost, but not like not a good rate body. Only 2 attack and 3 health is a pretty wimpy. So Energy Extraction is really good here. I think that can deal like 5 damage to the face if you do that combo. So I see a lot of Zaladars running like a couple copies of those. Maybe Sack Lamb. A lot of people don't run Reactorary, but I'm kind of mixed on it. I think it can be really good to mill off of Antimatter in the right situations or off of Redux Channel on turn 2 or on turn 3. So there are good applications for Reactory. So that's why I play it. Let's see. Other people may run Energy Discharge. I think Energy Discharge is underrated for sure, but when you're trying to kind of rush the opponent, I don't think Zaladar really needs it. I think maybe other elemental heroes need it a little bit more. Maybe like your Elementalis or something that really doesn't have a backup plan for losing the board. But Zaladar is pretty comfortable retaking the board with stuff like Mind Control and your Aural Battery and your hero ability. That's really good at clearing those 4 health allies. Yeah, okay. One other thing I do see a lot. Where is it? Okay. I see a lot of this card, Soulbound Armor. The reason I don't run Soulbound Armor is it's a really great finisher. It's really good with Energy Extraction, but it conflicts with Aural Battery. So I'm kind of mixed on it just because they're both armors. So like I usually don't like playing multiple different kinds of armors in the same deck unless they're like really cheap or like you don't need both of them, or maybe one is good in a situation and then sometimes you play another one. But yeah, I just think that Aural Battery is enough in terms of armors. So I wouldn't want to play this card. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say here about this list. I think Lightning Elemental is kind of cool. That's basically the main reason I run it, but there are probably better 2 cost allies. A Lightning Elemental is amazing with first turn advantage, but I think if you have first turn advantage, or if you're going first, yeah, other allies are still good going first, and so yeah, maybe something like Ironhide Crash is a card I see a lot for elemental heroes. It's just an amazing card, so you could consider putting in Crash instead of Lightning Elemental. A lot of people like playing 6 to 8 2-cost allies. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that, just because I think late game 2-cost allies aren't as effective as other things you could be doing. But yeah, I guess that's basically all I have in terms of the lineup. It's pretty standard. I think the only maybe... Oh, yeah. I should probably talk about this card. I think you only need to run one. And the reason is Pendant is not like... I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you run Pendant to like counter Blood Frenzy, or you run Pendant to like counter Illigan Gains. And yes, sometimes you do, but what I found is you are kind of inefficient if you're removing those kind of draw engines with Obsidian Pendant, just because your opponent can always play like a second copy, and then like you spent like 5 resources and you lost a Shadow Energy just to remove something that your opponent paid like 3 or 4 resources to summon. So I think Obsidian Pendant is way better as a removal for, admittedly, stall cards. So something like Enrage is amazing to remove with Pendant, and that won me a couple games actually. Just being able to Pendant away Enrage is so strong against those warriors that really need that health to live and survive. So that's really good. I've seen it do a lot of work against high cost items. So something like the King's Pride is an amazing trade. Yes, you pay 5 resources and lose a Shadow Energy, but your opponent paid 7 resources. So you're still ahead on tempo if you Pendant away the King's Pride. So that can help you kill somebody because the King's Pride lets you kind of live. It's essentially 10 health because it's 5 durability and 2 defense. But once you remove it with Pendant, now you can go in for the kill. So Pendant is kind of like almost like a remove the defensive piece that your opponent needs to defend themselves with. I usually won't be removing draw engines with this. I'll usually be removing the defensive piece on my opponent's side. And so even if my opponent plays Blood Frenzy or Illigan Gains, I'm usually waiting for my opponent to play that defensive piece to remove that defensive piece, not using it to remove the draw engines. And so that's where I think Pendant shines. It's just like, especially in this kind of deck, one of the advantages of Pendant is that you can play it on your board and then, like, I don't know, wait. So yeah, like there's some tech that like require you to hold it in hand, and I'm not always a big fan of that because I think, especially in like a combo-y deck, you want to hold other cards in your hand. You don't want to like clog your hand in with tech. And so that's why I like Pendant over something like Leyline Nexus. Plus, it's like just incredibly flexible no matter what you face. It can also remove, because it's also any ability, you can remove stuff like Rain Dance or Rain Delay. So yeah, removing something like Rain Delay is great with Obsidian Pendant. So you can beat your, like, if you're ever against something that's stalling, Pendant is also really good there. So yeah, that's why I run one. I don't think you need more than one because if you're removing their defensive piece, you're usually trying to win that turn. It's usually in a situation where your opponent has like a defense set up, and then you have Pendant, and then you just Pendant away their defense and then go in for like a kill. Yeah, okay. I think that's basically all I have to say about this deck. Personally, I think the Bludgeon Aural Battery combo is a little bit too strong. Oh yeah, one more thing. Okay, I do want to talk about this just because, it's pretty infamous now, but there is this one combo. You play Void Wretch, and you can play it in various ways. There's a location that summons it out for 4 cost, or you can just play it for 7 cost. You play Void Wretch, you have Aural Battery out, and then you play this card called Soul Reaper, another famous card. So Soul Reaper exiles all the ally cards in your graveyard, and Void Wretch deals 1 damage to your opponent for every exiled card. So the combo is you play Void Wretch, then you play Soul Reaper, and let's say you remove 10 allies from your grave. That's going to deal 10 damage to the opponent, which is really, really good. But on top of that, with the Aural Battery, that doubles that damage. So if you remove 10 allies, all of a sudden you're dealing 20 damage. And so there is something called the Void Wretch 1-turn kill, where you play the Void Wretch, and then you play the Soul Reaper, and then you win the game there. Now, the reason I'm not playing it in this Zaladar deck is I don't think it's really that good in Zaladar, honestly. I mean, it's good. It's very good, but to pull off that combo, what often ends up happening is you'll like draw into your Void Wretch early on in the game, and you'll draw into your Soul Reaper early on in the game, and then you're like afraid to sacrifice it, because if you sacrifice it, then all of a sudden you can't pull off that combo. And so I just found too many times where I was sacrificing the pieces because I needed to play something else to like live. Like, you know, on turn 3, I needed to sacrifice it so I could play my 3-cost card, even against the matchups where I think the Void Wretch combo would have done really well. So for that reason, I think it's still a really good combo, but it fits better in something like a dedicated Praxis build where you run 4 of the Void Wretch and you run 4 of the Soul Reaper, and so you don't care if you sacrifice them early, you just need to draw into them late. And then Praxis obviously synergizes with getting allies in the graveyard. So something like Praxis, I think, is a better application for the Void Wretch one-turn kill. But you will see that, and so you do have to watch out for that. And to counter it, you probably should just remove Aural Battery. That's the main way to counter it, because honestly, Zaladar plays a lot of abilities and a lot of items, so they don't always fill up the grave that much. So, you know, yeah, here it's what, 10. We're only running like 17 allies, which is a little bit on the low side. Okay, and the other reason is I like Infinity Core a lot, and Infinity Core definitely conflicts with Soul Reaper because Infinity Core is putting allies back into the deck, and so then you'll have less to exile with Soul Reaper. But I like Infinity Core a lot. I think Infinity Core lets you do very similar things to the Void Wretch OTK, but it doesn't require a combo. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with talking about this deck now. It's a very good deck. I think if you are looking for trying it out, you won't go wrong with this. You know, yeah, it's a very strong deck. You might consider changing up. There's a lot of different styles you can go, but that's Zaladar. Yeah, hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let me know what you think about Zaladar in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll make more of these videos. All right, that's all for this time. Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.